Do people even like Rolex watches anymore? The simple answer is yeah, probably. But the more complicated answer, and the answer that I want to talk about today, is not so simple. So here's how this video came about. A few months ago, I was having lunch with my friend, and we were talking about the ugly green GMT Master 2. You know the one that looks like it's upside down. From a design standpoint, there's nothing really that appeals to me about this watch, and my friend seemed to agree. But then he goes to say something along the lines of, hey, if I'm still offered to buy this watch, I would buy it and then sell it for profit. It's a no-brainer. The watch is worth more on the secondary market than what you pay for it at the AD. So this brought out a question. Do people even still like Rolex watches anymore? Or do they simply buy them because they're hot, and if you don't buy one, there might not be another chance to do so? Imagine this scenario. You walk into Rolex AD and they have this green, the ugly Rolex GMT 2 Master on sale, and they say, hey, you can just buy one. Would you buy it? Even though you don't like the watch. Maybe you like the watch, that's fine. But for me personally, I don't like the watch. And let's imagine in this scenario, you don't like the watch. Would you still buy it? I think majority of people would say, yeah, I'd still buy it, even though you might not like the watch. Of course, this scenario is completely fictitious. No Rolex AD that I know of just has stainless steel sports models on shelves, waiting for anyone who has cash to walk in and purchase them. A lot of times you have to work the system in order to qualify to even buy one of these watches. What am I talking about here? If you've been in a watch community for a while, you probably know the system, you know how it goes, how you qualify to buy these sports models. If the store sells jewelry, sometimes you'll be required to buy some jewelry in order to qualify for a purchase of a Rolex. If they sell other watch brands, you might be required to buy some of the less desirable watches from other brands in order to qualify to buy this Rolex. And if they only sell Rolex watches, sometimes you might be required to buy some of the less desirable Rolex models, once again, in order to qualify to have the privilege to buy one of the watches that you actually want. The times have sort of changed. Back in the day, Datejusts, Oyster Perpetuals were the undesired Rolex models, the models that you had to buy in order to qualify for a purchase of a Submariner or a GMT or whatever. Nowadays, 36mm Datejust is even hot. Not to speak of the 41mm Oyster Perpetual. Those watches are just very difficult to find. They became waitlisted themselves. The only sort of undesirable watches that I see are the women's-sized Datejusts. These watches are still kind of pushed on customers in order to qualify for bigger purchases. With such high demand for Rolex watches, it might be silly to ask, do people still like Rolex watches? I mean, of course they do. They go through all these hoops. They buy other watches in order to buy the Rolex that they really want. So of course they still like Rolex, right? Right? Are people simply happy to buy anything at the retail price because the hope is that you will make money on the watch? I think it's an important question to ask yourself. I mean, very few people are lucky enough to be in a position to really choose the Rolex that they want, to really walk into the AD and say, hey, we want the Summit, or we want the Daytona, or we want the Blue Dial Sky Dweller. And the AD would say, sure, here it is. Very few people are in this situation. Most of the time, you're kind of buying the Rolex that you actually don't really want. Not that long ago, I remember this wasn't really such a big issue. I mean, even today, it's not really an issue. We just made it into this problem. This is such a first world problem. Oh my God, I can't buy the Rolex that I really want. But I mean, this is a watch channel, so we are going to discuss this. Nevertheless, before, this wasn't such a big issue. About 3.5 years ago, I walked into an AD in Montreal and I walked out with the 39mm Rolex Explorer. It was a watch that I really wanted, and it wasn't the only stainless steel sports model they had on display. I actually had a choice of a few models to choose from, but this is the watch that I really wanted. To say that I walked in and walked out with the watch is not entirely correct. What I did, I walked in, I saw the watch, then I walked out of the AD, went for lunch with my girlfriend at the time, now she's my wife, and I really thought about whether I want to buy the watch or not, weighed all the pros and all the cons. I didn't feel like I had to buy the watch right then and there, and if I don't buy the watch right there and then I will never have a chance to buy this watch. Then I came back to the AD and I bought it because I really wanted this watch. It was one of my grails. Nowadays, I feel like if I walked into the AD and I saw the Explorer, unfortunately they don't have the 39 anymore, but 36 is still even hot. But let's say a watch that I really wanted and they had one on display, let's say like a two-tone Daytona, which is one of my grails right now, I would probably have to buy it right then and there. I don't have time to think about whether to buy one or not, because if I leave the ADs, come back, it's gonna be gone. And that applies to a watch that I actually like. But what happens if you walk in and you see a watch that you don't actually like, but you have the ability to buy? You'd still have to buy it on the spot, because when you come back, the watch might not be there. And I think that is the big issue with this whole situation. People buy Rolex watches not because they like them, but because they're hot and because they're hoping to make more money on the resale market. Back in the day when I saw someone walking around with, let's say, a 41mm Datejust, I thought to myself, wow, what an interesting choice. Good for you. You had a choice of any watch you wanted and you chose a Rolex Datejust. Nowadays, when I see someone walking around with a 41mm Rolex Datejust, I think to myself, is this a watch they really wanted, or is this the watch that they had to buy in order to qualify for a watch that they really want? I mean, maybe it's a wrong way to think about things, but that just seems the way industry is set up right now. Not everyone is wearing the watch that they actually want to wear. People seem to no longer choose their Rolex sports models. They sort of get chosen and they have to buy whatever Rolex sports model is available. But of course, I know this doesn't apply to everyone. I know there's still people who don't want to play this game. There are people that are on a different level. They can't just walk in and choose any model that they want. And of course, there's so many people that bought prior to this whole craziness with Rolex sports models. But you can't help but think in this shifted way. Do people actually wear the watch that they want to wear, or do they wear it because it's hot, or do they wear it because they're hoping to make money on it? Do they buy it because they like it, or do they buy it because they're hoping to make money on it? It's becoming its own sort of mental game right now. Now, what's the point of this video? Why am I even talking about this? First of all, I think it's kind of interesting to think about these things. Secondly, I think it's important to know when a little bit of self-deception is happening in our brains. When we are kind of forcing ourselves to like something just because we have the ability to buy it, instead of buying something that we actually want to buy. Because at some point, the music might stop. And what happens then? Do you want to be stuck with a watch that you like, or do you want to be stuck with a watch that you don't like and you were just hoping to make money on? Because it can happen. The market can crash. Some of the models might go down in value instead of go up in value. And then you're stuck with a watch that is worth less than what you paid for it, which is a normal thing in the watch industry. But more importantly, you're stuck, quote unquote, stuck with a watch that you don't actually like and want to wear. So I think it's just important for us to be mindful of how we spend money, and also try to have a little bit of soul searching and try to answer the question, do we actually like the watch that we're offered to buy, or do we simply buy it because of fear of missing out? But hey, those were just some of my thoughts on the subject. Leave your thoughts in the comment section below. I always enjoy reading your comments. Like this video if you liked it, subscribe to the YouTube channel so you don't miss more content like this in the future. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.